Alright, this is video 6 for College Algebra, and we're going to be solving functions. And we're going to be looking at polynomials, radicals, rationals, and some absolute value. So first of all, the degree of whatever your function is equals the number of roots, and that's real and imaginary. Okay, so if the degree is 3, there are 3 roots, not necessarily 3 real roots. You could have 2 real roots and 1 imaginary, but you will have 3. And so that's really when we're looking at our polynomials. All right, so this first one, to start off this, always look for a GCF. And let's write another little note. Make sure you look for a GCF first. And that's always, okay? And so with this, my GCF is 3x squared, okay? And when I take that out, I'm left with x squared minus 16. Okay, well now my x squared minus 16, that is a difference of squares. So I'm going to keep my 3x squared, and I know that it's a difference of squared, so I can go ahead and write this out. X plus 4 and x minus 4. All right, and now with each of these, we're going to zero out each factor. So we're going to set each factor equal to 0. Okay, 3x squared equals 0. X plus 4 equals to 0, and x minus 4 equal to 0. And we're going to solve. Okay, I can divide by 3 here, so I get x squared equals 0 and x equals 0. On this one, subtract 4, x equals negative 4. Add 4, and x equals 4. So I've got 3 different answers, which is perfect because this was a cubic function. Oh, no, we only have 3. This is a 4, okay? But because this is a square, we know this has a multiplicity of 2. So that means that happens twice, okay? That would be called a double root because of that square. So we actually have 1, 2, 3, and 4 because this is a polynomial with a 4th degree. All right, our next question, we are going to have hopefully 3 roots because it is a cubic function. So with this, we can factor by grouping because there are 4 terms. The GCF of my first would be x squared, so I'd be left with x minus 3. If I take out a positive 3, I'm left with x minus 3. Make sure that these 2 parentheses match, or else you cannot regroup. So now that I'm regrouping, I've got x squared plus 3 and x minus 3. And this should actually say equals 0. So that we can solve. All right, so this next one, we're going to put each of our factors equal to 0. So I've got x squared plus 3 equal to 0, and x minus 3 equal to 0, okay? I've got x squared equals negative 3, and when I square root both sides, I'm going to get my 2 answers, okay? We should just get x equals plus and minus square root of negative 3, but we just learned that a square root of a negative number is going to be I, so we actually have our answer as x equals plus or minus I square root of 3. And over here we just have x equals 3. So here we've got 1 answer, 2, and 3. Okay, and then just for your own personal notes, here's our formulas for sum and difference of cubes. That might come up in homework or in practice problems. All right, next we're looking at a square root function. So first we're wanting to get our square root by itself. So I'm going to add x to both sides. So square root of 2x plus 7 equals x plus 2. And now we are going to want to undo our square root. So to undo it, we're going to square. So we square that side and we square the right-hand side. This will undo our square root, and I'm just left with 2x plus 7. Over on this side, however, it's actually x plus 2 times x plus 2. Okay, and then we'll distribute. After we distribute, we should get x squared plus 4x plus 4. Okay, now we want to get everything on one side, so subtract your 2x and your 7. We get x squared plus 2x minus 3. From that we can factor, so this just kind of keeps going on. We've got a lot of steps in this problem, but persevere. So I'm thinking what multiplies to negative 3 and adds to 2? That would be positive 3 and negative 1. And setting each one of those equal to 0 and x minus 1 equal to 0, we get our two answers of x equals negative 3 and x equals positive 1. All right, for our next one, we've got a power that is a fraction. Okay, and this is where things might get a little complicated, but we are to undo that. Okay, first let's just look at the denominator. Okay, that becomes a cube root, and our numerator is a square. So this is the cube root of x minus 4 squared. Okay, so first, to undo that cube root, we are going to cube everything. So we're going to cube this function and cube 25. So we're left with x minus 4 squared equals 15,625. Okay, now we undo our square. Square root both sides. Now we're just left with x minus 4 equals plus or minus 125. So we add 4, so we've got x equals 4 plus or minus 125, and let's simplify that. X equals 129 and x equals 121. All right, and we've got just a few more examples, 2 more examples. Okay, with this we're going to need to get common denominators. Okay, whenever we have rationals. So we need everything to have an x and an x minus 2, and this, I like to think of that as being in parentheses. If you have any whole numbers, you can just put them over 1. So our first fraction we need to multiply by x minus 2, and we do that on the top and bottom. Our second fraction we need to multiply by x on the top and the bottom. And with 1 we need to multiply by both, so we need to multiply by x and x minus 2. All right, so we can simplify that. Since all of our denominator is now the same, we can just look at our numerator. So we've got 2x minus 4 equals 3x minus x squared plus 2x. If we get everything on one side, and I would suggest moving over your x squared so that's no longer negative. We've got x squared minus 3x minus 4, and look at that, we can factor again. X minus 4 and x plus 1 equal to 0, so we've got x equals 4 and x equals negative 1. All right, for our very last problem, absolute value, this one we've a little tricky because we're going to have to do this problem twice. Okay, so remember when we were to solve just a regular absolute value, we would write our equation twice, once with negative answer, once with a positive answer. Same thing. So here we've got x squared minus 3x equals negative 4x plus 6. Our second answer would be negative of x squared minus 3x. And it's just going to equal the exact same. All right, so now we can go ahead and solve. Get everything to one side. We've got a quadratic. Okay, hopefully we're good and well practiced at factoring, so we can do some quick factoring. And over here we've got x equals negative 3 and x equals positive 2. All right, now on this side we're going to distribute that negative. All right, so I've got negative x squared plus 3x, and it equals the same. So if we move all of this stuff over, we've got negative x squared plus 7x minus 6 equals 0. We want to get rid of that, so let's just divide everything by a negative 1 and flip all of our signs. Okay, from there we can do some quick factoring. And so we've got x equals 6 and x equals 1. Okay, so for absolute value, we actually have those 4 answers for this problem. Okay, don't just try to find your answers and then flip the signs and call it good. Okay, we've actually got to flip our equation now. All right, so this was solving all types of functions.